The birth of Formula One, 1946 to 1950. The story of Formula One begins in the aftermath of World War II. Europe was rebuilding, and so was motorsport. In 1946, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, or FIA, laid down the rules for a new class of racing cars, Formula One. These regulations aimed to create a premier series that would attract the best drivers and manufacturers. Formula One's technical regulations were designed to level the playing field. Cars were to be powered by 1.5-liter supercharged engines or 4.5-liter naturally aspirated engines. This flexibility allowed a range of manufacturers to enter the sport, from the established giants like Alfa Romeo to small privateer teams. The regulations also mandated a minimum weight of 600 kilograms, ensuring that the cars were not only fast but also required innovative engineering solutions to meet these stringent requirements. The first official Formula One World Championship race took place on May 13, 1950, at Silverstone, England. It was won by Giuseppe Farina in an Alfa Romeo 158, a car that was originally designed before the war. Farina, known for his precise driving style and meticulous preparation, would go on to become the first-ever world champion. The Alfa Romeo 158, nicknamed the Alfetta, dominated the early years of the championship thanks to its supercharged engine that produced an impressive 350 horsepower. While Farina secured the inaugural championship, his teammate Juan Manuel Fangio quickly emerged as the dominant force.
Subscribe and like to the Unraveled podcast
In the sport. Fangio, an Argentine driver known for his calm demeanor and strategic brilliance, would go on to win 5 world titles throughout the 1950s. His ability to adapt to different cars and teams was unmatched, and he remains one of the most respected figures in motorsport history. However, the early days of Formula One were not without controversy. The FIA's decision to include the Indianapolis 500 in the World Championship calendar from 1950 to 1960 was met with criticism. The American race was held under different regulations, and most European teams did not participate, leading to questions about the fairness of the championship points distribution. The Golden Age, 1950s-1960s. The 1950s and 60s are often considered the golden age of Formula One. Legendary names like Juan Manuel Fangio and Stirling Moss dominated the circuits. Fangio, who began his career in South American endurance races, secured 5 world titles between 1951 and 1957, a record that would stand for nearly 5 decades. His mastery of different types of cars, from Alfa Romeos to Mercedes, Maseratis, and Ferraris, demonstrated his unparalleled versatility and adaptability. Fangio's move to Mercedes in 1954 marked a turning point in the sport. The Mercedes-Benz W196 was a technological marvel, featuring a streamlined body and a 2.5-liter straight-eight engine. It introduced innovations like fuel injection and desmodromic valves, which allowed for better control of the engine's air-fuel mixture. Fangio's dominance with this car underscored the importance of technical innovation in Formula One. Stirling Moss, often considered the greatest driver never to win a world championship, was Fangio's closest rival. Moss's career was marked by his sportsmanship and his willingness to compete in any type of racing car, from single-seaters to sports cars. Despite his incredible talent and numerous victories, Moss's refusal to prioritize the championship over individual race wins, often opting to drive British cars that were less competitive, meant he never secured the title. During this era, cars evolved rapidly. The transition from front-engine to mid-engine designs in the late 1950s revolutionized the sport. Mid-engine cars, pioneered by constructors like Cooper, offered better weight distribution and handling. The 1959 Cooper T51, powered by a 2.5-liter Climax engine, proved the concept. When Jack Brabham won the World Championship, signaling the end of the front-engine era, manufacturers like Ferrari, Maserati, and Lotus became household names, each pushing the envelope in their quest for dominance. Ferrari, led by the enigmatic Enzo Ferrari, was both a racing team and a symbol of Italian national pride. The Scuderia's cars, such as the 156 Sharknose and the 158, combined powerful engines with sleek aerodynamics, securing multiple championships. But with the excitement came danger. Safety was a distant concern, and many drivers paid the ultimate price. The circuits were often lined with trees, telephone poles, and ditches with little in the way of barriers or runoff areas. The tragic deaths of legends like Alberto Ascari in 1955 and Jim Clark in 1968 were stark reminders of the risks involved. Ascari's death was particularly shocking as it came just days after he survived a crash at Monaco. Clark, considered by many as the greatest driver of his generation, was killed in a Formula 2 race in Germany, a loss that sent shockwaves through the sport. The 1960s also saw the introduction of new technology, such as monocoque chassis designs pioneered by Lotus. The Lotus 25, introduced in 1962, featured a fully stressed monocoque chassis, which was both lighter and stiffer than traditional spaceframe designs. This innovation, along with the development of aerodynamic wings to generate downforce, set the stage for the technological arms race that would define Formula One in the coming decades. Technological revolution, 1970s-1980s. The 1970s and 80s marked a period of unprecedented technological revolution in Formula One. The decade began with a shift towards aerodynamics as a crucial factor in car design. Teams like Lotus, under the visionary leadership of Colin Chapman, pioneered the use of ground-effect aerodynamics. The Lotus 78 and its successor, the Lotus 79, utilized Venturi tunnels under the car to create a low-pressure area, effectively sucking the car to the track. This allowed for greater cornering speeds and transformed the sport overnight. This period also saw the rise of innovative engineering solutions. Tyrrell introduced the P34, a six-wheeled car designed to reduce drag and increase contact patch, while Brabham experimented with the fan car concept, which used a fan at the rear of the car to create a vacuum and increase downforce. While these innovations were short-lived due to regulatory changes, they demonstrated the creative engineering that defined the era. The rivalry between Niki Lauda and James Hunt, immortalized in the movie Rush, epitomized the intense competition and personal drama of this period. Lauda, known for his analytical approach and meticulous preparation, became a three-time world champion despite suffering life-threatening injuries in a crash at the Nürburgring in 1976. His comeback just 6 weeks later, still bandaged and in pain, is one of the most heroic moments in the sport's history. James Hunt, in contrast, was the quintessential playboy driver, known for his charisma, flamboyant lifestyle, and natural talent. His 1976 championship win, achieved amid a backdrop of off-track controversies and a bitter rivalry with Lauda, remains one of the most dramatic seasons in F1 history. The season ended with Hunt winning the championship by a single point after a rain-soaked and controversial final race in Japan. The 1980s saw the rise of turbocharged engines, with manufacturers like Renault and Honda pushing power outputs to unprecedented levels. Renault introduced the first turbocharged car in 1977, but it was in the 1980s that turbos truly took over, with power levels exceeding 1,200 horsepower in qualifying trim. The cars became brutally fast, but also dangerously difficult to control. Groundbreaking technological advancements continued with the introduction of electronic driver aids such as active suspension, pioneered by Williams, and semi-automatic gearboxes introduced by Ferrari. These innovations made the cars faster and more efficient, but also led to questions about the role of technology in reducing the skill required by drivers. The deaths of Gilles Villeneuve and Riccardo Paletti in 1982 shook the sport to its core. Villeneuve, known for his fearless driving style and uncompromising approach, was killed during qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix at Zolder. His death highlighted the fragility of the cars and the inadequate safety standards of the circuits. Paletti, a promising young driver, was killed at the Canadian Grand Prix just a few weeks later when he crashed into the stalled car of Didier Pironi, emphasizing the need for improved starting procedures and medical response times. The tragic events of the 1982 season led to the introduction of stricter safety measures and car design regulations. The FIA mandated the use of carbon fiber monocoques, which provided better protection for drivers and introduced new rules on crash testing and fire safety. The 1990s were dominated by one man, Ayrton Senna. Born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Senna's rise to the top of Formula One was meteoric. Known for his breathtaking speed and unparalleled skill in wet conditions, Senna quickly established himself as one of the greatest drivers in the sport's history. His rivalry with Alain Prost, characterized by intense on-track battles and off-track politics, defined the era. The controversy between Senna and Prost reached its peak during their time as teammates at McLaren. In 1988, they had the most dominant season in F1 history, winning 15 out of 16 races. However, their rivalry turned bitter, culminating in the infamous incidents at the Japanese Grand Prix in 1989 and 1990. In 1989, Prost and Senna collided at the chicane, leading to Prost's retirement and Senna's disqualification after he rejoined the track and won the race. This handed the championship to Prost under controversial circumstances. The following year, in an act of revenge, Senna intentionally crashed into Prost at the first corner of the same race, securing his own championship in a move that shocked the racing world. Senna's pursuit of perfection and his unyielding belief in his own abilities made him both a beloved hero and a polarizing figure. His daring driving style and spiritual approach to racing captivated fans, but his willingness to risk everything for victory also drew criticism. Senna's relationship with safety was complex. He was both a relentless competitor and a vocal advocate for driver safety, often pushing for changes to circuits he deemed too dangerous. His tragic death at the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix at Imola marked a dark day in the history of Formula One. Senna's car veered off the track and struck a concrete wall at high speed, leading to fatal head injuries. The accident occurred just a day after the death of Austrian rookie Roland Ratzenberger during qualifying, which had already shaken the sport to its core. Senna's death led to a complete overhaul of safety regulations, with immediate changes to car and circuit designs. The FIA introduced new crash tests, higher cockpit sides, and better head and neck protection for drivers. In the wake of Senna's death, Michael Schumacher emerged as the dominant force in Formula One. The German driver, known for his relentless work ethic and precision, won his first two championships with Benetton in 1994 and 1990. Schumacher's talent was evident from the start of his career, but his success also came with controversy. The 1994 season was marred by multiple disputes, including allegations of rule violations and his collision with Damon Hill at the final race in Adelaide, which secured his first championship in controversial fashion. Schumacher's move to Ferrari in 1996 began one of the most successful partnerships in the sport's history. Under the leadership of team principal Jean Todt, technical director Ross Brawn, and chief designer Rory Byrne, Ferrari developed into an unstoppable force. The car, powered by a V10 engine, became the benchmark in terms of reliability and performance. Schumacher's ability to consistently deliver victories, often under immense pressure, was instrumental in ending Ferrari's 21-year championship drought in 2000. From 2000 to 2004, Schumacher and Ferrari dominated Formula One, winning 5 consecutive drivers' and constructors' championships. Schumacher's meticulous approach to testing and development, along with his fitness regime and mental focus, set new standards for the sport. His dominance, however, raised questions about the competitiveness of the sport, with critics arguing that his and Ferrari's superiority was detrimental to the spectacle of racing. Despite his success, Schumacher's career was not without controversy. The 1986 saw him involved in another high-profile incident, this time with Jacques Villeneuve. In a desperate attempt to win the championship, Schumacher turned into Villeneuve at the final race in Jerez, but instead of securing the title, he was disqualified from the championship. In 2002, Ferrari's use of team orders at the Austrian Grand Prix, where Rubens Barrichello was ordered to let Schumacher pass for the win, drew widespread condemnation and led to the banning of team orders. Schumacher's dominance, however, also highlighted the growing importance of team strategy, technology, and financial backing in achieving success. Formula One was no longer just about the best drivers. It was about the best overall package. Teams invested heavily in wind tunnels, computational fluid dynamics, and telemetry systems to gain even the smallest advantages. The role of the driver was still crucial, but the influence of engineers and strategists became more pronounced than ever. The modern era, 2010s present. The 2010s and beyond have seen the sport evolve into a highly sophisticated and globally popular spectacle. The introduction of hybrid engines in 2014 marked a new era for Formula One, as the sport sought to align itself with the automotive industry's shift towards sustainability. These new power units, combining a 1.6-liter V6 turbocharged engine with sophisticated energy recovery systems, ERS, represented a significant technological leap. They were not only more fuel-efficient, but also capable of delivering over 900 horsepower, making them some of the most advanced engines ever seen in motorsport. Mercedes-AMG Petronas, with Lewis Hamilton at the helm, dominated the hybrid era, rewriting the record books. Hamilton, who had already secured his first championship with McLaren in 2008, joined Mercedes in 2013 and went on to win 6 more titles with the team. His skill, consistency, and ability to adapt to changing conditions made him a formidable competitor. Under the leadership of team principal Toto Wolff and technical director James Allison, Mercedes developed a car that was both powerful and reliable, setting new benchmarks in performance. However, this dominance also sparked debates about the competitiveness of Formula One. The combination of a superior power unit and efficient aerodynamic design allowed Mercedes to dominate the sport, often leading to one-sided races and predictable outcomes. Critics argued that the regulations, particularly those governing the power units, made it difficult for other teams to catch up, creating an imbalance that was detrimental to the sport's appeal. But with success comes controversy. The 21 season, culminating in the dramatic showdown between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, showcased the fine line between sporting glory and controversy. The season was marked by intense on-track battles, with the two drivers colliding multiple times. The climax came at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where a controversial decision by the race director regarding the handling of a late race safety car situation allowed Verstappen to overtake Hamilton on the final lap and win his first championship. The incident led to widespread criticism and a review of the FIA's procedures, highlighting the need for clearer and more consistent rule enforcement. As Formula One looks to the future, it's not just about speed anymore. The the sport is facing new challenges, from environmental concerns to evolving fan expectations. The introduction of budget caps in 21 aimed to level the playing field by limiting the amount teams can spend, encouraging more competitive racing and reducing the gap between the top teams and the rest of the grid. Additionally, the upcoming 2026 regulations will see further changes to the power units, focusing on sustainable fuels and increased electrical power in a bid to make the sport more environmentally friendly.
Subscribe and like to the Unraveled podcast.